are some stories that sound too strange to be real, and yet too detailed to be completely made up. This is one of them. For decades, rumors have circulated about a secret experiment, one allegedly hidden behind military secrecy, scientific ambition, and complete silence. According to the story, a group of researchers attempted something far beyond ordinary science. They weren't just testing energy, or radar, or advanced technology. They were trying to reach beyond reality itself. Some say the goal was invisibility. Others say teleportation, but the darkest version of the story claims the truth was even more disturbing. They were trying to open a doorway to another dimension, a place beyond human understanding, a place no one was meant to enter. And if the rumors are true, for one brief moment, they actually succeeded. What happened next is the reason this mystery still haunts people today. Because according to the legend, not everyone involved came back the same, and some may not have come back at all. To understand why people believe a story like this, you have to go back to a time when science was advancing faster than the public could even imagine. The mid-20th century was full of classified projects, military experiments, and scientific breakthroughs that changed the world almost overnight. Radar, nuclear weapons, psychological operations, electromagnetic research. Everything seemed possible, and most of it was happening behind closed doors. The public only saw fragments. A new invention here, a strange rumor there, a declassified project years later that proved governments really had been testing things nobody knew about. That created the perfect environment for darker stories to grow. Because once people realized secret experiments were real, they began to wonder just how far those experiments had gone. Could scientists have tested the limits of human perception? Could they have tried to bend energy in ways no one fully understood? Could they have attempted something so dangerous, so unnatural, that even the people running it lost control? That's where this story begins. In a world where secrecy was normal, and where the impossible didn't seem quite so impossible anymore. Depending on the version of the legend, the purpose of the experiment changes. Some say it was a military project designed to make an object disappear from enemy detection. Others claim it was an attempt to move matter instantly from one place to another. But the most unsettling theory says the real goal was something much bigger, to tear through the barrier between dimensions. The idea sounds like science fiction, but the fear behind it is very real. Human beings have always been obsessed with hidden worlds, places beyond death, beyond sight, beyond the limits of normal reality. In older times, those ideas were connected to mythology, religion, and the supernatural. But in the modern age, science gave them a new language. Instead of rituals, there were machines. Instead of magic circles, there were magnetic fields. Instead of ancient portals, there were calculations, frequencies, and energy waves. The story says the researchers believed reality wasn't as stable as it seemed, that under certain conditions, space itself could be distorted, that enough energy properly controlled could interfere with the natural boundaries of the physical world. And if that boundary became weak enough, something on the other side might appear, or worse, something might come through. According to the legend, the experiment was conducted in total secrecy. Only a small number of scientists, operators, and military personnel were allowed inside the facility. The equipment had already been prepared. The calculations were finished. Everything was in place for the test. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Machines vibrated to life. A low electrical hum filled the room. Lights flickered overhead as power surged through the system. Then, the atmosphere began to change. Witnesses in later retellings describe a strange glow forming around the center of the experiment, sometimes blue, sometimes green, depending on the version of the story. The air reportedly felt heavy, almost pressurized, like the room itself was being compressed by something invisible. Some claimed their skin tingled. Others said the temperature dropped suddenly. And then, the target at the center of the test began to blur. Its edges softened, its shape distorted, and slowly, impossibly, it started to disappear. Not fade into darkness, not hide behind smoke. Disappear, as if reality had stopped holding it in place. That was the moment, according to the story, when the experiment went from controlled to catastrophic. Alarms began sounding across the room. Instruments malfunctioned. Operators lost control of the readings. People started shouting over one another as the glow intensified and the distortion became more violent. Then something changed. The object that had disappeared began to return, but not normally. Witnesses allegedly described it flickering in and out, unstable, as though it was struggling to fully re-enter reality. Some said it looked wrong for a few seconds, like its form didn't completely belong where it was. And the people closest to the event were affected too. Some became dizzy and disoriented. Some reportedly panicked for no visible reason. Others claimed they saw shapes, flashes, or movement where nothing should have been. In the darkest versions of the story, a few people were said to have suffered far worse than confusion or fear. They were changed somehow, physically, mentally, or both, as if exposure to whatever happened in that room had left part of them somewhere else and brought something else back with them. That is the moment where the legend becomes truly terrifying, because the story no longer sounds like a failed experiment. It starts to sound like a door was opened and not fully closed. What happened after the experiment is what keeps this story alive, because according to the most unsettling accounts, the event didn't end when the machines were turned off. Some of those involved allegedly reported feelings of extreme paranoia. Others said they felt like they were being watched, even when they were alone. There were claims of people seeing movement in empty hallways, hearing sounds that no one else could hear, and noticing strange delays in reflections or shadows. Some accounts even say time itself seemed inconsistent. Clocks stopped, watches showed different times. People argued over how long the test had lasted. A few believed it had been only seconds. Others insisted it felt much longer. And then there were the stories about the survivors. One of the most chilling claims says at least one person became obsessed with the feeling that the world around him was slightly wrong. Familiar rooms felt unfamiliar. Voices sounded distant. Everyday life no longer seemed natural. It was as if he had returned, but not to exactly the same place he had left. That idea is what makes this mystery so effective, because it plays with one of the deepest fears imaginable, not just entering another dimension, but coming back to a reality that isn't fully your own. Of course, if something like this really happened, the obvious question is simple. Why don't we have proof? Believers in the story say the answer is obvious. It was covered up. Any reports would have been classified. Any witnesses would have been silenced. Any official record would have been altered, buried, or destroyed. And to many people, that explanation sounds believable, not because it proves the story, but because history has shown that governments do hide dangerous experiments. They do erase failures. They do protect secrets when they think the public should never know what happened. That's why this legend has survived so long, not because there is clear evidence, but because there is just enough uncertainty to make people wonder. Maybe the story was exaggerated over time. Maybe rumors turned a failed test into a supernatural nightmare. Or maybe there really was a classified experiment so disturbing that the truth had to be hidden forever. That uncertainty is where the mystery lives. And sometimes unanswered questions are more frightening than facts. So in the end, what are we left with? A story about secret science, a story about ambition going too far, A story about people trying to force open something they didn't understand. Maybe it was only a rumor built from fear, secrecy, and imagination. Maybe it was inspired by real experiments that had nothing to do with other dimensions at all. Or maybe, hidden beneath all the retellings and contradictions, there is a small piece of truth too dangerous to ever fully reveal. That's what makes this case so unsettling, because the idea itself is terrifying. That somewhere, at some point, human beings may have tried to interfere with the structure of reality, that for a brief moment, a boundary may have weakened, and that whatever happened inside that room was so disturbing that no one wanted to talk about it again. Maybe they failed. Maybe they succeeded for only a second. Or maybe the worst part isn't whether they opened another dimension, but whether something noticed them when they did. If you enjoyed the story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications for more mysteries, secret experiments, and unexplained stories. And if this video gave you chills, leave a like so I know you want to see more content like this. Also, let me know in the comments, do you think this was just a myth? Or did they really open something they were never supposed to touch?